Islip Zoning Board of Appeals. Sorry about that. We'll begin by reading the public notice, the call of the meeting. After that, we will begin to call each individual application. When I call your application, please step up to the podium. Clearly state your name and address for the record, and we'll proceed from there, okay? So first, the public notice. Notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Islip will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, December 6, 2022, at Town Hall West, 401 West Main Street, Islip, New York, on the following applications at the times listed or as soon thereafter as they may be reached. And at such time, all interested parties will be given an opportunity to be heard. Dated November 23rd, 2020. John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is number 904-22. David Pop and Gina DeFelice. Permission to leave shed having a side yard of 1 foot instead of required 2 feet. Residence AA District, west side of Carroll Lee Court, number 6, 162.75 feet north of Solano Lane, West Islip, New York. Is there anyone here on this application? Again, as I said, when I call your application, please step up to the podium and in a loud, clear voice, say your name and address for the record, please. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Hi. Gina DeFelice and David Pop, 6 Carolee Court, West Islip, 11795.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. You have a a shed a little bit too close to side yard property, 1 instead of 2.
Yes.
We see that a lot. Seems de minimis. Take a vote. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank
Next
you.
application is number 905-22, Edward Hayden. Permission to erect a 2-story and 2nd-story addition and dwelling and to use dwelling for family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68419.1, Residence A District, north side of Alinda Avenue, number 19, 295.24 feet east of Higbee Lane, West Islip, New York. Name and address for the record, please, sir, and the 2 gentlemen with you as well.
Okay, I'm Kenneth Garvin. I'm an architect. My address is 545 8th Avenue, New Hyde Park, New York, 11040. This is the owner.
Edward Hayden, 19 Alinda Avenue, West Islip, New York, 11795.
Thank you, sir.
Bradley Lowe, designer, 18 Snowbird Lane, Levittown, New York.
Thank you.
How are you tonight? Good.
Good, we're here tonight to go over.
So you're going to have to speak into that microphone. We can't hear anything up here.
Okay.
It's terrible.
All right, tonight we're here, we just gave you some additional drawings just to look at the design for the 2-story addition for the house. We're looking to do.
There's no changes from the plan that was proposed here, right?
No, we just wanted to give you
you
additional information if you didn't look it over. Basically, the mother would like to live at her son's home. We're designing this 2-story addition to the side of the house so she could have her independence and yet still have the connection with her son. Due to health reasons, she needs to be at this residence with the son.
Sure.
And the design is in keeping with the character of the architecture of the neighborhood, the town, the neighbors. It's not substantial. We did look at alternate designs trying to use the interior stairway to do something, but it just. with the
You're not
split-
here for any variances on the additions at all. You're just here for
No,
the
just-
family use only.
Right.
And it appears that everything's in order. It's based on medical. Mom's going to be in the apartment. It's going to be owner occupied.
Yes.
Your submission's very nicely done, Mr. Michael.
Yeah,
Thank you. All right.
Awesome.
So if there's any questions, we're here.
great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions?
Did whoever made this rendering, did they put pool floats in the?
No, I think it's like chairs.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice touch.
It's all about a quality of life.
I think that's cool.
Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we grant the application.
Period 3 years.
And the family use for a period of 3 years.
Thank you. Thank you.
All
Thank
in
you very
favor?
much.
See you in 3 years. Have a great night.
Next application, 906-22, Michael W. Guestline and Alexandrine Rivas. Permission to leave in-ground pool 14 by 28, having rear of 8.5 feet instead of required 14 feet. The district's outside of Phillips Street, 132, 700 feet west of Coates Avenue, Holbrook, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please, as well as these folks that are joining you.
Oh, hi. Michael Guffline, the new owner of 132 Phillips Street, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
Christine Jermali, former owner of 132 Phillips Street, Holbrook.
Don Slater, formerly 132 Phillips Street, Holbrook.
So these guys put it in without a permit, and you got to lift the rate, the freight, huh?
I think with a permit, but not quite,
Sorry,
yeah.
just kidding.
Oh, so you want to start?
Well done, sir. Well done.
So you have a pool, in-ground pool. It's a little too close to the side yard. I mean, the rear yard, I apologize. The side yard complies. We at the zoning board of advice would love to see one side comply. And it does. So does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Chair, motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Happy holidays.
Next application number 907-22, Christopher W. and Denise A. Colacola. Permission to install in-ground pool in side and rear yards of 10 feet instead of required 18 feet each. To leave shed having second front yard of 6.8 instead of the required 35 feet. And a 6-foot fence on the property line not having required setback of 10 feet. Residence AA District, 278 cluster, southwest corner of Jet Lane, number 12, Thunder Road, Holbrook, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Chris Colacola, 12 Jet Lane, Holbrook, New York, 11741.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So you're looking for permission to install a pool, 10 instead of 18. Do you have any precedent for in the area for 10 instead of 18 on both sides?
Yeah, the reason, well, first, it's a corner property that we own. For the longest time, didn't even think it was possible based on the depth of the backyard. And then over the course of the past couple of years, houses and families in our neighborhood, we've seen them obtain variances and install or get permission to install in-ground. And so we decided to move forward with it. And the reason we're asking for both the side and the back is because the previous homeowners installed an added addition of a sunroom on the back of the property, which we have a permit for. And without the requested variance permission, the proximity to the sunroom, I guess, sticking out into the backyard would be extremely tight.
So do you know how its second front yard, how far do they have to be off Thunder Road, the second front?
Are you okay with this placement?
That's what I'm saying. If they shift off the side yard towards Thunder Road, which is the second front yard, 8 feet, they then have to go for a variance for that over that way, or how far over do they have to be in the second front yard? Right here.
So even if they move the pool 8 feet that way?
Yeah, so they're looking for 10, that's the second front yard. If they shift it over, at least comply with this yard, and they get back to 10. Okay, 14, not 18.
Yeah, so.
So we give it 10.
It's a cluster.
We give it to cluster. We give it 10 and 14 each. It should be seen
10
as
by
14.
14? Yeah.
It should be seen as 14.
Right.
Comes as 18, they look at it as 14, so they have 10 and 10. Would you like to shift it over 4 feet?
Yeah, otherwise we're gonna get a hole. We have no precedent.
So I apologize, sir. We don't have any internet to
It's okay.
discuss this and look up some stuff, so I apologize. Your property is in a cluster, so although it says 18 by code, we normally see 14 feet for rear and side. We like to have one side of the pool comply, whether it's the rear or the side. So if shifting it over 4 feet off of your westerly side would comply on that side at 14. I know the code says 18, but again, you're in a cluster, so we'll look at it as 14. So if you shift that pool just 4 feet over to the east and comply at 14 on that side, the westerly side, or the 10 and 14 for the rear and westerly.
So
You
it
agree to
move, so, sorry, just to be clear, so from the side request would be 14? and
Yeah,
the
instead of
back
10.
would be
that?
10?
You're looking for 10 and 10 right now? The side request would be 14 and the rear and 10.
Yeah, I was looking for 10 to 10.
You go with 14 and 10? That's what we're looking for.
My only concern with that again is the proximity to that sunroom addition sticking out. It would just be a very tight space, or I don't know if it would be too close to, I know it has to be a certain amount of feet from the house itself.
They need separation.
Yeah.
But you have 4 feet.
Yeah, definitely at 4 feet or more than that,
Oh,
probably.
I thought it was more than that.
Yeah, probably more than that.
Yes.
No, I thought the requirement was more than that. Sorry.
No, I think you'd have plenty, especially shifting it over to the right.
And we have the 6-foot fence.
So, but the property is 123 by 97. A lot of math pages, so I apologize. 11,931. We see up to 12,000. So it's 11,931. So the fence issue, they changed the code a few years back, and we see up to 12,000 square feet for the fence to stay there, and you're at 11,900. So you're pretty good to keep that fence where it is. You're just gonna have to shift the runnings that you pull over 4 feet to the east. Okay?
Great.
So it's be 14 on the side and 10 on the rear.
Okay.
You agree?
Yep, that's
Okay.
fine.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny so much of the application and seek a variance to leave a 10-foot side yard. Instead, grant a 14-foot side yard, grant a 10-foot rear yard variance, and grant the balance of the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, sir.
Thank you.
Take
Excellent.
Next application, number 908-22, Mary Flaherty. Permission to leave above-ground pool having side yard of 10.2 feet instead of required 14 feet, patio having side yard of 1.2 feet instead of required 4 feet,
I'm fine with this.
and fence on side property line having height of 7 feet instead of permitted 6 feet. Residence is the east side of Edgewood Avenue, 175, 252.6 feet north of Shelter Road, Montauk, New York. Ma'am, welcome, name and address for the record, please.
Mary Flaherty, 175 Edgewood Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good, thanks. I got lost getting here, so I'm a little frazzled.
What's the matter? I can't hear you.
I'm a little frazzled. I got lost getting here.
Don't be frazzled. We don't bite. We're good. So you have a above-ground pool, a little too close.
Yes,
What we say here is life of the pool. So if you have to rebuild the pool, you have to put it in a complying location. You agree to that? You can leave it where it is until you have to rebuild it.
yes,
Life of the pool. So if it has to come down and get changed, you have to move it.
Okay.
complying, Okay? Patio 1.2 instead of 4, we see that. Fence on side property line having 7 feet instead of permitted 6. Where's that fence? Oh, it's a little meandering wood fence? It
yes.
says meandering wood fence.
Is there a fence on a wall somewhere?
There is behind, on the further, the far property. When they had it installed, Robert said it was 7 feet was code, so it's height, it's equal height with the back fence, so I didn't even think anything
Where's
of
your
it.
property? They dip right there? It only looks like a little certain area of the yard that's 7 feet.
It's only one side.
One, a little small
Yeah.
section. You guys good with that?
Yes.
All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.
Next
care.
application, 909-22, Teresa Dario. Permission to leave deck 3.2 feet high, having side yard of 3.2 feet instead of required 6 feet. Doesn't say districts outside of Pleasant Street, Route 233 and 40.76 feet west of Terry Road, Montauk, New York. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
Dana Bush, 41 Whittier Avenue, Medford, New York, 11763.
And what is your connection to the app?
I work for the agent, Richard Tripkowski.
Good, well,
Hi,
How are you?
I'm okay. A little nervous, but good.
Don't be nervous. We don't bite.
Mr. Tripowski should have told you, we're very pleasant,
He did.
especially at the holiday.
Yeah. He's feeling a little under the weather today, so I'm his replacement last minute.
All right. Tell me, he said, hope he feels better. So you have a deck 3.2 feet high with a side yard at 3.2 feet instead of 6.
Yes.
Any, would you like to put anything on the record, or you just want us to discuss it?
You can discuss it.
Want you to grant.
Just wanted
Trying to
to.
grant it? Is that it?
Would it help if I told you that there's a lot of trees in between them and the neighbors, so you could really even barely tell that the deck's there?
Yeah.
Especially since we don't have our
Yeah, we have one, but
What they look-
look, they're looking. Yeah, it's just a little small brick.
Which one?
This is the house.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yep. Dan, you got this? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you, you
Next
too.
application 910-22 Maria Grasso, permission to leave driveway inside property line, not having required setback of 4 feet, Residence A District West Side of Wine Dance Road, number 192, 252.2 feet north of St. Lawrence Street, Salem, New York. Sir, ma'am, your names and addresses for the record, please.
Ken Maxwell, 192 Wine Dance Road, Sayville, New York.
Maria Grasso, 192 Wine Dance Road, Sayville, New York.
How are you both tonight?
Very good yourself?
Good. Driveway on side property line, doesn't seem like it's going too far down the property line. It's pavers, right? Trains. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Number 911-22 Pedro J. Santiago, permission to leave second story addition having side yard of 13.8 feet and portico having side yard of 12.5 feet instead of the required 14 feet each. Attached garage having second front yard of 26.2 feet and shed having second front yard of 26.7 feet instead of the required 35 feet each. Residence A District Southwest corner of Connecticut Avenue, number 1300 and Woodland Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Ms. Trello, welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight, Ms. Trell?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, what's going on?
Okay, so this property was actually before the board previously under application 550-09. And at that time, the detached garage and the shed were granted in the exact location that it still exists today. At that time, they also had a one-story addition with a side yard of 12.6 feet instead of the 14 feet that was also granted. So after that hearing, they did begin the permit process. Unfortunately, there was a fire at the home. The house was actually reconstructed, and the side yard where the 1 and 2 story addition is actually 13.8. I think they tried to comply, and there was just a small error there. And then it increases all the way to 15.2 feet. They also added a portico at that time, which is the one thing that was added differently from the previous application to now. And that portico maintains a 12.5 instead of 14. It's in line with the portion of the house, just sticks out a tiny bit to the side.
So it's just a portico that's different than the grant from 2009.
Yes, the house has been changed. It was reconstructed.
All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Next application, number 912-22, Jose R. Garcia, permission to reconstruct accessory building into 2 buildings. Building number 1, 24 feet by 29.4 feet irregular, to be reverted into a detached garage with a side yard of 3.1 feet instead of required 10 feet. Building number 2, 14.2 feet by 29.4 feet irregular, to be used as storage building, leaving side yard of 3.1 feet instead of required 4 feet. Residence AA District, outside of Bailey Avenue, number 71, 738 feet east of 3rd Avenue, Bay Shore, New York. Ms. Trella, again, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening again. Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York. Good, I'm sorry.
How are you?
This site was also before the board previously under application 358-22. At that time, we did show that the original garage, which is now referred to as building number 1, is the original structure from 1981. And at that time, there was an addition onto that accessory building, which was the cause for the variance application at that time. So we spoke to a couple contractors. We want to revert that back to the original structure that was on the CO and separate them. However, in doing so, the second building will now only have a side yard of 3.1 instead of 4 feet, because we were able to separate it enough where it was under the 500 square feet. But the only thing I did want to mention is that the original structure, the previous decision, it said we could revert it back to the original structure and maintain a 4-foot side yard setback. But it's actually 3 feet in just one corner, and then it increases to 4 feet.
I'm not following. These two buildings were both one?
No, just a portion. They are one still, and they want to separate them into two.
What is separating them into two do zoning wise? It's still the same closeness to the property.
Well, it brings the second building under the 500 square feet because we're taking off a big portion of it. So it decreases the side yard setback from 10 feet to 4 feet.
And then the remainder, what happens to that?
That's the portion of the original structure from 1981. So at the previous board hearing, as long as they reverted it back to the size of the original structure, they were okay to keep it in its location.
So what did we accomplish? All they did is cut the building and leave it like 6 inches between them. We really didn't accomplish anything.
They reduced their required side yards.
Well, okay.
Very clever.
My only concern is that the CO states that accessory structure is 340 square feet. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I apologize. I read it wrong.
Was
680 square feet.
that originally there, the one
Yes.
building?
Yeah,
Yes, it's on the CO from 1981.
Accessory building, 680, and then accessory shed, 340.
Okay. How did it get CO'd if it's so close to the property line?
I think, oh, it was the CFC, they said it was within 70. Maybe only 2 feet was required.
Okay. Thanks.
You good?
Yeah.
You good? You guys good? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Next application, 913-22, Darrell and Teresa Tompkins, permission to leave water feature, having a rear yard setback of 11 feet instead of required 18 feet. 6-foot fence, having a front yard of 0.5 feet instead of required 10 feet. Residents Double A District, Southeast corner of Green Court number 2 in Apollo Lane, Hopog, New York. Mr. Ponte, welcome, name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Angel Aponte, A-P-O-N-T-E. I reside at 1330 Washington Avenue, Bayshore, New York. And I'm here as an agent on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Tompkins.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I'd like to start with the water feature, if that's okay.
Sure.
So the fountain is actually probably about a foot, maybe a foot and a half back from where the pool line is, and it shows on the survey that it's 20.9 feet. Understandably, when these things are reviewed, it just shows a big box on the survey. And as per the pictures that Mr. Tompkins did provide, you can see that that is a landscaping berm. It's really rocks and dirt at 11 feet from the property line.
All right. Let's talk about the fence.
Yeah, so the fence, understandably, it's right up against the property line. There are, that corner of the property is full of, not sure the species of the tree, but it's roughly about 20 feet high.
You know what we say, you've been here before us a lot, the
Yes, sir.
You can cut it to 4 feet and leave it on a property line and have 100-foot arborvitae's behind it, but with this size property, you can't have a 6-foot fence on a property line.
That's kind of what the gentleman has here on his property. And I just wanted to ask that you reconsider because moving the fence would probably damage the trees that have been there for about 30 years.
There's
And
no other time that we have, unless there was a reason what it faced, or if it was next to, say, a recharge basin or a commercial property, that's something that we can hang our hat on. We deny people weekly on these fences, and we don't write the code, we just have to uphold it. So
okay.
I agree with you on it, but there's nothing we can do. Either it has to come back 10 feet or cut down to 4, and you can put arborvitae's behind it.
Okay, the fact that, I mean, if I may,
Sure.
that the corner of this, the 90-degree portion is at the, basically a quarter of the distance from the back of the house instead of usually how it is from the front, causes a site triangle situation as well.
It's not even a side triangle. They just don't.
I know
I
that-
guess the intent of the code, in my
Right.
opinion, was they didn't want to have a road walled in with 6'5" fences as you're driving down it. I'm not sure I agree with that, but that's I believe the intent of the code.
Yeah.
And we have to uphold it as nothing. We
Okay.
deny multiple people. You've heard us before.
Yeah.
And it's painful. I hear you, but
Yeah,
there's
and
nothing. that
I
we
didn't
can-
even want to bring that up because this road is pretty wide and there's 9 feet of beautiful landscape area between that and the curb, which the other neighbor as well on the other side has. So I would say,
You know what we could do? We can reserve it and look at, we don't have anything here to look at.
No screen
So
there.
it's like in the abyss.
yeah,
So we can reserve it and we can take a peek at it and we can render a decision.
yeah, because it's very beautiful and I think like if it were to be taken down, it'd be a whole different situation. Not to mention the financial burden on the homeowner to
Sure.
remove that and
All right.
you know.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Have a great holiday.
Application number 914-22, Frank J. Johnston. She believes above ground pool on lot having area of 9,701 square feet. So it requires 12,000 square feet. Having front yard of 25.5 feet instead of required 60 feet. Side yard of 19.7 feet instead of required 25 feet. Residence BAA district. Northwest corner terminus slipper roadway number 10, 555 feet north of Central Walk Neal Estates. Sir, your name and address for the record, please welcome. Mr. Berg.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Messina, members of the board. Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York, for the applicant. Mr. Messina, I heard you offer somebody before. Just give the presentation and you'll approve it if that's still out there.
That was the chairman.
Oh, so that's not open?
But the application wasn't anywhere near as before as this.
Oh, well, I'm going to take a little bit of time. For starters, I'd like to hand up some photographs. I'm going to be handing things up along the way here this evening. So just want to point out to the board, I need to
So how
settle.
about just address your front yard, because the rest of it, I don't think is so hard. This is me personally. In a lot of areas, a little
Oh,
hard, but
Mr. Messina, I think I might be implored to create a record tonight, just in case.
Oh. Okay, help yourself, sorry.
I'd be remiss if I didn't do so.
Let me tell you how to represent the client, sir.
That being said, Mr. Johnson purchased his property in 2003, and the date is important, May 18th of 2003. This pool was in existence at that time. It was constructed pursuant to a permit in 1987. It was placed on the certificate of occupancy for the dwelling in 1989. I'd like to hand up a survey. I'm sorry, Jay, I'm going to make you work a little bit. I'd like to hand up a survey of the property dated 1989, and I think it was updated in 1990. You can see that the pool structure was in existence at that time. The pool was constructed under, at the time, Town of Islip had a special exception permit for swimming pools on Fire Island for lots smaller than 12,000 square feet. At the time this pool was installed, it was then renewed, that permit, for 5 years. In 1998, it was renewed again, and it would have expired in November of 2003. Mr. Johnson would have had at least 4 or 5 months from the time he bought the property to make an application under that section of the code. As this board is probably aware, that section of the code is no longer in existence. It was repealed by the wisdom of the town board in 2006. Following 2006, the 3 or 4 years that followed, 2008, 9, and 10, there was a lot of conversations with attorneys like myself and Lark Schlimbaum, who this board may be aware of, made many presentations to the board. I actually appeared as a witness before the board at one point in time with respect to the change in the code and the swimming pools on Fire Island. Frank Johnston had been one of the few people that had the unfortunate predicament of buying a house with a certificate of occupancy that did not accurately reflect that permit was non-renewable and that it was non-transferable. The town board saw fit in 2014, some 8 years later after the repeal, to change the town code once again to provide a provision in the code that any property with that special exception permit would be required to have the notation clearly and emphatically noted on the CO that it was non-transferable. So Mr. Johnston, I had submitted letters prior to the hearing, was in a car accident in 1995. He's been treating with the same physician since that time. It was a severe car accident. He was literally hanging off the Tappan Zee Bridge. Both his hands were fractured, his back and neck. We submitted letters that show that at that time in 2003, with his continually treating physicians, he would have qualified for this special exception had he been aware that he needed to file it. In 2008, when he first became aware of it, there was this contentious going back and forth with the zoning board, the town board, and again, myself, I was involved in that. Dick Shire was the chairman. Lo and behold, there was actually a court case that Lark Schlimbaum brought. It was Brady versus the town of Islip. And that court case, as you know, set forth the 5 determining factors. Ultimately, the Brady case was denied and they lost on that, but I want to bring it to the board's attention because it highlighted those 5 factors that we see all the time, which I'm going to get to. In 2012, Superstorm Sandy came along and pretty much wiped out Mr. Johnson's Bayfront residence. As you can see from the photos I sent up, Mr. Johnson was denied insurance coverage. I had to litigate that case. He was actually a victim of FEMA fraud. He was one of the named plaintiffs in the Ramey line of cases. It took him a couple of years to get his money to rebuild the house. During the reconstruction process in 2014 and 15, Frank Johnston had conversations with members of the town, including Aldo in zoning, and I don't recall Aldo's last name, and John Paniciero, who at the time was the building inspector, is now the chief building inspector. There was a lot of back and forth, and I then had to personally speak to Aldo and call him JP, John Paniciero. In the end, I wound up having to go to J.R. DeCiccio, the former town attorney, to try to find some compromise because we were not sure if this was going to be zoning approved based upon the language or lack of language that was in the CO. I want to hand up now for the board a copy of the certificate of occupancy that existed at that time. And I point out to the board and for the record that that certificate of occupancy did not have that explicit language on there. After going back and forth with J.R. DeCiccio, we came up with a compromise. And the compromise was that the call of the meeting would reflect, and I'll just read you for the record the denial letter, although it's not inclusive on the call of the meeting to the public. A request before the Zoning Board of Appeals may be submitted to seek permission to maintain the above-ground pool after the previous temporary special exception has terminated. And then it continued on the lot size and whatnot. And that was an important compromise between myself and the town attorney, because I was looking for a way to convey for the record and to the board that Mr. Johnson was a special circumstance. And this board may be aware that there are not too many of these special permits for the swimming pools out there. But there was a handful of them that did not have this designation on the certificate of occupancy. So as we bring it all the way down from 2006 to 2014, when the code was repealed in 2006, to when it was rewritten in 2014 to require the reflection by the town to note on the certificate of occupancy that it was non-transferable, Mr. Johnson had lost the ability then, due to the repeal of the code, to apply under the special exception. So it brings me now back full circle, if you will, to, I'll say, a general application. I've submitted previously to the board, it should be part of the record. This lot, as you can see, is very unique. It is on the bay on Fire Island. There are no neighbors on the west. There are no neighbors on the north. The 5 letters that I submitted are all the immediate neighbors to the south, the southwest, the east, and the southeast. And I would like to hand up for the board, sorry, Jay, one more letter that I got in tonight. We have unanimous approval, if you will, from the public that immediately surrounds this parcel. There is not one neighbor who has an issue with this. In fact, several of the letters indicate that this pool has been in existence for 35 years. So I press to the board a question. When a structure is in existence for 35 years, fully permitted at the time it was constructed, so there was no underhanding at the time, permits being renewed, when does it become part of the nature and character of the area? If these most affected neighbors, and granted there aren't 2 on the west and on the north, if these most affected neighbors have lived with this structure for 35 years,
That doesn't-
assumes that one use makes the nature and character of the area, and it doesn't. And the law is clear on that.
And it has
You
nothing
may
to do with the
argue that
neighbors.
It's not gonna have any adverse impact because it's been there for so long.
Well, I'm
But
going-
I don't think you could successfully argue, at least not to me, nature and character.
If you, I'm sorry, if you said that 85% of the properties in the immediate area have it, we'd say, yes, that's nature and character. Maybe we'd have our own internal discussion whether or not they're legal or not, but we'd agree with you. Or if 60% or 40%, this is no percent.
well,
That doesn't.
and
make nature
we can
character-
differ. Again,
That doesn't make it nature and character of the neighborhood.
I understand both your positions on the nature and character. What I'm saying to the board, and I hope the board would at least take into consideration the benefits to the applicant, that his neighbors are saying this has become a part of our immediate neighborhood, if you will. And sometimes this board wants a 500-foot radius, and what do we have here or there? What I'm saying to the board is, and it may not meet the statutory provisions, and it may not meet the case law provisions, but it certainly meets consideration provisions, which is, when does a structure that the community is, the immediate community that is most affected by it, when does it become a part of the neighborhood? And all of the neighbors have said they've never had a problem with this pool.
I think to answer your question, never, under zoning.
Well, perhaps.
I think never.
But-
If it doesn't comply, it's kind of like if you build a building and it's 6 inches from the property line and the immediate neighbor says, I love it, does that make it okay? Or even the neighbor, the adjacent neighbor, I love it. That never makes it okay.
That's not what I'm saying, Mr. Wex. When we can, perhaps I'm not presenting
I think
it.
you have better, the other factors you do a little, some of the other factors do a little better.
What I'm asking you is to consider it in weighing the benefits to the applicant and the detriments to the community. The community has said this is not, and by submission of the letters, has said this is not a detriment to our immediate surrounding community. That's what I'm saying here. So moving along, I'd like to hand up the next item, which is a Suffolk County tax map with some highlighted portions of the swimming pools within the islet part of Fire Island here that consists of Robin's Rest, Corneal Estates, and Summer Club.
These are all legal.
These are all legal permitted pools, and this was from a FOIL request.
What's the square footage on these parcels?
Well, it's odd that you should ask that,
Why is it odd?
because I have one that happens to be 5,600 square feet, Mr. Messina.
So that's not odd that I would ask that. Of course I would.
No, well, you just gave it right to me here.
All right.
Mr. Bertolino, I'm trying to help you here.
I know. I know you are.
Making it difficult.
87 Sexton Walk in Robin's Rest, which is highlighted on that. And I point out in Robin's Rest, there are 4 pools. 3 of them are bayfront. They all received variances. And the one right behind the bayfront homes, which is 87 Sexton, has a lot size of 5,600 square feet. And if you give me 30 seconds, I will get to
While
that.
you're looking in a 500-foot radius, what's the precedent that we have or don't have?
Mr. Wexler, I have no precedent for that 500-foot radius, but what I do have precedent for is right down the block in 2013. Sorry, this podium is awfully small for exhibits. So just want to go back a second, Mr. Wexler, if I may. So under Board of Appeals number 218-87, at 87 Sexton Walk, we have a 5,600 square foot lot where a 12 by 32 above ground pool was approved. And in 2002, Mr. James Mallett made an application under application number 313-02, and the pool was actually denied. And at that point, he sought, and this goes to Mr. Messina's question, he sought a relaxation from 18 feet to the required 25 feet. And that application was denied. Some 11 years later, in 2013, and I remind this board, that was after all the back and forth we had with the town and some, I'll call them hearings or presentations to the board. In 2013, Mr. Mallett came back before the Zoning Board of Appeals under 385-13, and the same application that had been denied 11 years earlier was approved.
Who was his lawyer?
Wasn't me, unfortunately, but he must have had a good one.
Yeah.
How far is that from the,
It's about 700 feet, Mr. Wexler. It's right down the walk. I know you're familiar with Fire Island. These are just small little walks down there. And Mr. Mallett's pool was approved, and it goes to Mr. Messina's initial question, which was focus on the front yard setback.
And the lot area.
And the lot area. So I think I've gotten both of those in. That being said, recently this board, through an application that I made, granted one in Fair Harbor. Now, Mr. Wexler, you can beat me up on this one. This is probably several thousand feet down the road, but I want to point out the reason I'm highlighting it. That was an existing pool that had a 26-foot front yard setback. The code had changed to require a 60-foot front yard setback. And when I presented to this board, the board said, well, it's already there. I don't have a problem with it remaining in that same condition. And I point that out to the board because if what's good for communities in Islip known as Fair Harbor, why isn't that same reasoning good for community
Because
members in?
we have a 500-foot radius, and what you're asking us to do is, I mean, the distance between Sexton Walk and Fair Harbor is at least, you got to go through Summer Club, you have to go through Atlantique, you have to go through East Lonelyville, Dunewood, Fair Harbor. It's not like we're talking feet and
But
inches.
Mr. Wexler, I'm not
It's
pointing that
3/4 of
out
a
to you,
mile.
Mr. Wexler. What I'm asking for is equal application of the law.
No,
No. Let me
not
finish,
equal
please.
No, wait, it's not, wait, when you say something like that, no, it deserves us to say, it's not equal application of the law. It's unequal application of the law. Equal application of the law is that we uniformly follow our 500-foot radius. That's equal application of the law. Asking us to consider a property at least half to 3/4 of a mile away, that's unequal application of the law.
Mr. Wexler,
That's my name. You have to keep
no, but what I'm pointing out here is for a different purpose. Part of this application is seeking to leave an existing pool that hasn't been rebuilt and reconstructed, that only has a front yard setback of 25 feet, and it was legal at 25 feet at the time it was put in. The code now requires 60 feet. I'm not asking for parity between nature and character. What I'm asking for is parity in the analysis that says if a pool is already in existence at 25 feet, regardless of what municipality or hamlet it may be located within the town, if we're going to apply a reasoning or an analysis and say it's already there, it was permitted at 25 feet when it was installed, the code changed, we're going to allow it to remain there. That's why I'm asking the question. I would agree with you, and I do agree with you.
So you're saying that you're not necessarily considering it precedent as far as the relief, but maybe more procedure.
Correct.
But then then basically it'll be townwide. Whatever
Well,
goes down in Bayport, we've got to do in West Islip.
No, the reasoning you use,
I get where he's saying.
I get it.
He's saying if we apply one procedural framework for a situation
But
for one property.
it's just unique.
Yeah.
Because, frankly, there may be runoff issues on one property, not another. There may be,
But
any number of issues on one property, not another.
And we don't know the unique circumstances that Grant did the Fair Harbor application. We don't. We can't.
Where to apply.
We don't, right. We don't have a townwide standard.
on this, and I think Mr. Nicolia is getting what I'm trying to convey, and I just want to say one last time. I'm saying it's unique in the sense that it was an existing pool. When the code changed, it required a 60-foot setback, and I have the same situation here.
That's what happened in Fair Harbor, right?
Yes.
That's what happened here, right?
Yes.
Then it's not unique. Because there's two of them.
Well, I'm just asking that the analysis be the same. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for precedent.
Okay, the analysis would be the same if you show us that the facts are exactly the same, but you haven't.
Well,
And I don't know that you can.
if we called it a framed issue, the framed issue would be the pool was put in a 25-foot setback at the
Question is
time it
the
was
same,
legal.
But the facts may differ, thus the answer.
Well, the overall facts, sure, the overall facts, but on that particular point, and again, Mr. Messina, as you can tell from the call of the meeting, I have several points here to go over, one of which is,
Go over.
okay, one of which is that front yard setback, which is why I bring up the analysis. With respect to the undesirable change, I submit that the community members immediately around have said there's no undesirable change. With
But it
res-
will be an undesirable change if we have to now start granting that throughout the entire area.
I don't think we would ever grant that throughout the entire area.
Then why would we
especially-
grant it this one time?
Especially in Fire Island, when there's certain circumstances
Oh, I
when a
disagree.
pool can be.
I
put in
disagree.
front-
The property
You can't
behind
put-
it says we want the same thing.
No, Mr. Wexler, the uniqueness of this particular application, this parcel is severalfold. One is, there are no neighbors to the north. There's nobody affected. There's no neighbors to the west. Number two, the pool is already in existence. The pool is there. So not everybody who comes before you can make the same arguments that I'm making tonight. They can't make, and I know the board is not looking to make precedent, but they can't come here and say, my pool was put in 35 years ago under these permits that were then revoked with the inability to transfer them
Well, no,
without
they
knowledge
weren't
of the
revoked
applicant.
With the inability, it was for a 5-year non-renewable. Those are the facts. Nobody revoked it. The town didn't take the wool from, listen, you want to make a record? We need to make a record. The town didn't pull the wool out from Mr. Johnston or his predecessors. His predecessor had a 5-year non-renewable permit that Mr. Johnson didn't know for 8 years that he could renew it. That's on him. So let's not make it sound like the town revoked it in the middle of the night in town hall. Some clerk went there and said, we're revoking it. That didn't happen.
No, I never said it was like that, Mr. Wexler.
Now that's missing.
Okay. What I am saying is that in 2014, the town board recognized that this was an issue, and therefore they changed the section of the code, which is 68-149, subsection 1-4, that there must be a statement of non-transferability included on every certificate of occupancy or other acknowledgement. So that was the specificity that the town board saw fit to put in because this was a particular issue. With respect to the benefits to the applicant as to the detriment of the community, I think I've presented that Frank Johnson, through the letters, needs this swimming pool. He's been using it for well over, I'd say about 20 years, since 2003. You know, is this substantial? I don't believe it's as substantial as the 5,600 square foot one I gave you in Robin's Rest, and I understand it's not near.
25%, so the question is 25% substantial, right?
Approximately 20, I'm going to say it's like 23%. Like that.
Whether
So-
it's substantial or not, we'll determine that, but it's 23%.
Yes, agreed. The adverse impacts. This has been there for 25 or 35 years. The adverse impacts, we have to say there are relatively none. Now, I know this board has heard several applications for this particular property, and I know at some point in time, you know, we compound what we're asking for. And each time this applicant was before the board for other things, it was noted on those zoning decisions that the board did not comment on the swimming pool. And that's understandable. So we're here tonight to clear this up. And it's leading me into the self-created portion of it. Now, I know Mr. Johnston takes it as he finds it. When he takes it, you know, that's how he's stuck with it. But I think
He
when
does
you...
own a title company.
He does, Mr. Wexler, indeed. But that doesn't mean that when he got that CO or that title search 25 years ago, that he looked at it. It had a CO on the pool, and there we are. That being...
Not a great advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you do that?
We don't insure use, we only insure title.
There you go. Very good.
That's it.
That's this. I don't know if
And
that-
I often tell, you know, the municipal searches is not necessarily insured. I mean, it's part of the process that gets done, but it's not something that's insured. With that being said, I know this board is fully aware of the 5 points that we need to make. I think I've covered them all. If the board has any questions, I respectfully say that I'm here, the applicant is here himself, and I hope you consider all of the points of the uniqueness of this parcel, the unlikelihood that anyone else can, even including myself, can step up here and say, I have another application because you gave it to Mr. Johnson.
Somebody said that when the sexton,
Yeah.
when the sexton walked application came up.
Yeah, you'll find a way, Mr. Bertolino, trust us.
These things have a way of coming back
Yes.
and say hello.
We have faith in you, Mr. Bertolino.
Yeah, we have great faith in you. Let's hear from Deidre and then we can.
Right into that.
It is Christmas.
Deirdre from planning, and
Hanukkah, too.
any comments from planning department? So let me ask you a question. The pool, I'm trying to understand planning's statement with what you just stated. The pool has been there. It had a permit now, albeit only a 5-year non-renewal permit, as Mr. Wexler said over and over again. I get that.
I only said it twice.
All right, twice. Over and over, it's twice. It has,
Boy, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I
It's in that
apologize.
coffee.
I love you, you know that, I'm sorry. I don't understand planning's position on that when the pool has been there in the past, whether it's there legally now or not is a different argument, but I'm not sure where planning is coming from. On Fire Island?
I think she's afraid, she meaning Deidre is afraid of creating a precedent. And you all know my feelings on precedent, but okay, we get it. I get it.
I'm sorry to cut you off. Keep going. You have any more to say? No, I'm sorry to cut you off. All right. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Bertolino, you done with your record?
I am. I just thank the board for the consideration, and I hope you understand that, the applicant here is definitely going to benefit more than the detriment to the community. And I think that should take precedence over precedent.
Nothing takes precedent over precedence.
Not in your seat, no.
Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to reserve so we can go through all of this because there's a long history to it. And if there's anything else that you want to supplement the record with, supply it because there's a lot to review here.
We'll give you 1 week to supply. I'll second the motion, by the way.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Messina, with the 1 week, does that mean I'll have a decision sooner rather than later?
That means you have 1 week to submit additional material, and your 62 days begins to run from the expiration of 1 week.
Thank you, Mr. Messina.
No
He's not
worries.
using the pool right now,
Merry
correct?
Christmas, Mr. Burton.
Not today, but he hopes to use it in the summertime.
No.
Next application of 9/15/20.
Have a good night, Mr. Burton.
You must make it. I'm sorry, what? Permission to install in-ground pool leaving a side yard of 5 feet for the Price Steve Residence Street District, southwest corner of Willard Avenue, number 108 and Terrace Street. Sayville, New York, Mr. Bertolino, you're here on this one as well?
Hi, guys. Ladies, gentlemen, I'm back.
Nice.
For the
What's your
applicant,
address?
Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. So this one's not quite as long as the other one. As you can see, the uniqueness of this lot from the survey, we've got a very small jog in the lot line. I don't know how that happened when they were carving up this subdivision, but Ms. Musmack would like to install a pool. We're proposing a very small pool, a 12 by 26. We've nestled it into the back corner of the yard. We do comply with the rear yard setback of 10 feet, and I know this board likes us to comply on one side versus the other. On the north side, we're also complying with the 10-foot, and on the east side front, we're complying. We're asking for a relaxation on the south side, going from 10 feet to 5 feet. I'm told that the neighbor to the south has a shed in that corner and also an above-ground pool in that corner. So the installation of this pool, if it was approved, would not necessarily change the impact of use or noise of the parcel.
Is there a similar pool?
It's
Is there
an-
a
it's an-
similar
it's
pool
an
in
above
Fair
ground.
Harbor That we can rely on?
I might have one in Cornell.
Who told you that there was a pool in the ship?
My client, the applicant,
It actually looks like from the aerial that the neighbor to the south has a pool.
has a pool right next to it.
Right there.
That being said, can we do this any other way with this particular lot? Even if we were to install the pool going north to south, we have a 30-foot setback to the house. That there's really no other place to do it. We'd also be asking for a relaxation at that point. As this board may be aware, New York State Building Code requires the pool to be 10 feet off the dwelling structure. So we'd basically be stuck with a much smaller pool going north to south. That being said, I think this is the least intrusive way to present the application. I think the benefits to the applicant will outweigh the detriment to the community. There will be no adverse environmental impact. And if the board has any questions, I'm here and the applicant's here as well.
So there's there's a letter here of opposition, but it's on the side property that you're complying on. Just let the record note that. It's not, it's 10 feet on that side.
Just so the record's clear, whatever we do, we see the prior, looks like the neighbor, and we granted a swimming pool at 9 feet and 7.9. And this is 10 and 5. And that was is this an above? Because this is an above ground pool we're looking at, which was 9 feet, 7.9. I don't know, is this an above, or is this an in, oh, okay. You know, it was just on that one side.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Next application,
Thank you.
number 16-22, Linda and Christian Balasek. Permission to erect a roof over porch 5.5 feet by 12 feet, leading front yard 12.6, set of 5.5 feet. Second story addition, side yard 13 feet, set of 14 feet. Two second story, two-story addition, having side yard 13 feet, set of 14 feet, all having a floor area ratio at 26.73%, instead of the permitted 25%. To be district north side of Monroe Avenue, number 305, 142 feet east of Madison Street, West Islip, New York. Welcome to all three of you. Your names and addresses for the record, please.
Hi. Denise Trefaro, DTT Design, 1165 Broadway Avenue, Holbrook, New York.
Welcome.
Linda Balasik, 305 Monroe Avenue, West Islip, New York.
Christian Balasik, 305 Monroe, West Islip as well.
Thank you.
How are you all tonight?
Very good. Okay, so we designed actually 3 proposed additions. That's on the plot plan that you have. A rear, kind of in the front of the house on the second floor, and then the proposed covered porch in the front. So those are the 3 proposed additions. In addition to that, we're asking for permission to leave a second and 2-story addition, which the homeowners have found an old plot plan. That's the old plot plan. There was a board and permit issued for this. So that's the old plot plan for the 2 existing notations there in the application.
And the house holds 13 as it is, right? On the side?
Yes.
You're staying in line with it, straight up?
Correct.
Outside, right? And the front yard house holds 17.6, and now you're asking to decrease it to 12.6?
Correct for the front porch. But the front porch is 5 feet.
I'm just reading through it, leaving the front yard of 12.6 instead of required 25 feet.
That's to the front porch.
Right. Do we have any precedent for that? And do we have any precedent for the 26.73%?
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, I think I always say for 30, no?
Oh, yeah, we go to 30, but you're right. But the precedent at 12.6 instead of 25, that's a little steep, isn't it? What is it?
Well, it's only 5 foot out past the existing structure that it is now, and it's not, part of the house. It's just a covered porch.
Right, I'd like to see what the rest of the neighborhood looks like.
Well, it looks like they're further forward.
Do we, yeah.
This one's a
It
little
seems
further.
like it is. Maybe, Deidre, do you know, or we don't have a computer to? That's because our computer is down.
When is said computer coming back up?
Oh. Yeah, yeah,
I'm just curious.
I don't know, that's cool.
I'm just saying. So Deirdre, planning, it seems from this aerial that we have here, that these homes are sitting closer to, the code says 25, this house doesn't even hold 25 CO'd. Correct? It says right on the survey, 17.6. So you, is planning an objection with an open porch, never to be enclosed, or? Okay. Great. So never to be enclosed and never putting a second story above this covered porch?
It's, I think it's called a portico. It's just basically, some coverage when we walk. up to
Gotcha.
the top
I'm
of
not,
the
I'm not
ceiling, we have
a,
like little area for-
you're not going to enclose it though, make it like a mudroom, right?
Just wants to
The
confirm
walls-
you're never going to build above it.
Oh, no.
And you're not going to make it a mudroom, right? Close it?
Right, you're not gonna put any walls
You
on
can't
it.
enclose it.
I was actually, I don't know what the plan says, but I had a conversation with her. I want to just like make it like a deck. I don't want it to even be a structure.
Yep, so you're never going to enclose it?
No.
You agree to that?
No, I agree.
Great. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application, provided that you never enclose it. You never build walls. You never build above it. You never even think about doing it. I promise. Okay.
A second? Yes, yes. All in favor? Aye. Have a great night. Happy holidays.
Thank you, you too.
Application number 917-22, Jorge A. Morales. Permission to
I
establish
am.
an accessory apartment. Since Isaac County Code, section 6816. Blue shed on the side yard, 2.5 feet, rear yard, 2.3 feet, set required 4 feet in designated district. East side of Pineland Place, number 3139, 670 feet south of Comac Road, Brentwood, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
George Morales, 31 Pineland Place, Brentwood, New York, 11717.
How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well.
Good. You're seeking permission to establish an accessory apartment, 645 square feet, driveway complies. It's owner occupied, correct?
Yes.
Owner occupied, you live there? Everything seems to be in order, correct, man?
Everything's in order.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion. All in favor? Application granted. See you in 3 years.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to, I wasn't sure. Is this also updating the C of O so that I can leave, there was a leave in the shed having this, there was a leave in the shed having a side yard of 3.5 feet, rear yard?
Well, we approved that also. You got all
Let
that.
me amend what I said. Motion to approve the accessory apartment and grant the shed.
Okay.
Very good. You picked up on that.
I didn't even pick up on it. I'm getting paid to be here. Good job.
And one, just, so the accessory apartment, the shed, then there was another thing, just the C of O said there was a 2-car built-in garage, but it seems like there was an error.
We don't, that's not in front of us.
Oh, no?
If I were you, I'd turn around and go while
Oh,
the
no, it was
going's
verified.
good.
It was verified.
Yeah, yeah.
Run like the wind, sir. Run like the wind.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great holiday. Take
Next
care.
application is on 918-22, Ellen Bear. Permission to establish an accessory apartment, pursuant to Essex County Code Section 602, having the gross floor area of 827 square feet instead of permitted 800 square feet, and to leave egress window, having a second front yard of 16.6 feet instead of the permitted encroachment setback of 19 feet. Say District Southeast corner, 16 Lane, number 26, and Secretary Avenue, East Islip, New York. Ma'am, welcome. Your name and address for the record, please.
Ellen Bear, 26 Dixie Lane, East Islip, 11730.
Staggering 27 square feet over.
Well, actually, the interior dimensions are under 700. It was, or 757 or 775, something like that.
Got it, thank you.
How are you tonight? I'm sorry. I was rudely
No
talking while
worries.
you were talking.
Wait, you're gonna say you were rudely interrupted?
No, I was really talking. So I apologize. And I didn't hear anything you said, so I'm sorry about that too.
That's
So the
okay.
interior is only about 750 square.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
if it's measured that way, she's under.
All right. And you have a egress window instead of 19. We see that. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we grant the application and with respect to establishing an accessory apartment for a 3-year period.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Next application was previously adjourned from November 15, 2022. It is number 846-22, Luz Archimedes Galeas. Permission to leave a second-story addition 12 feet by 20.6 feet, having side yard of 6.6 instead of required 14 feet. Total side yards of 21.4 feet instead of required 28 feet, floor area ratio of 43.5% instead of permitted 25%. Street District, west side of Myrtle Avenue, number 727, 195.48 feet south of Union Street, Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Luz Archimedes Galeas, 727 Murray Avenue in West Islip.
Great. And could you tell us, begin by telling us why this was adjourned from November 15th?
I applied for the permit, first of all, and they denial.
You didn't appear.
No, this is the first time.
I see. Okay, there you go. That answers my question. Mr. Chairman, I apologize.
No problem. So did you build the second story without permit and then you applied?
Yes, sir.
So you have a side yard of 6.6 instead of 14. That's more than a 50% relaxation.
Yes. I don't know if this will help. I understand that was a mistake from the beginning. This is the first time that I buy a property, and I have some pictures right here that I would like to hand to you guys, if you guys don't mind. They in order. They're going to start from 0 to 6. The first one. The first picture, I'm sure you already have that picture on your file, but the first picture is the way the house used to look before, and is a really ugly look. And that's what made me make that decision. But first of all, what I did was I took some pictures around the area just to make sure that, I was not changing anything on the view of the street. And as you can see, there is a couple houses already in the street that they're very similar to the one I built. And then there's another one on the other side of the street as well, that they're very small property. Actually, they have 3,920 square footage lot. It's similar to mine with the same equal bedrooms and bathroom.
So you're stating that this picture number 1, the first house already had a second story and held a 6.6 foot side yard?
I'm not sure about the back because I never went to the back, but I went by the square footage on the lot. Is only 3,920 square foot on the
But
lot.
you didn't go outside of the footprint of the home, right? You just went up
Yes, sir.
on the front of it?
Just up.
You didn't go outside the footprint
Not
of the
at all.
sides?
I
So
didn't
that
touch
house
it.
held a 6.6 foot side yard?
Everything is existing. I just went up. Just the front.
So do you have, in some areas of West Islip have precedent of high FARs? You're at 43.5% instead of 25. We see up to 30, but you're 13.50. Did you do any precedent research for FAR or no?
No.
Did we? No, Benny?
Okay.
So the issue is planning only found precedent for FAR, the floor area ratio, up to 31%. You're asking for 43.5. How do we get there? What can we say and write to give you, other than you're a nice guy and the pictures look great?
I'm not sure if on the application there was a deck before, and I'm not sure if that count as that deck was removable. And there is also a shed in backyard that I'm not sure if it shows on the surveys. That was removable as well.
The deck, if the deck's not covered, it doesn't count in the FAR.
No, it was not covered.
Yeah, even if you remove the shed, I'm not sure it's going to bring you down 13.5% on FAR. I don't know how big the shed was. I'd have to assume it's average to small, right?
It was not that big. It's like 10 by 12. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Come on up, please. Name and address for the record.
So if you could step aside,
You
please.
step aside, sir, so they can speak.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's David Henry, 708 Myrtle Avenue, West Islip, diagonally across from the address that we're speaking about.
You were here last time, huh?
Yes, I was. I have just a few concerns about the property. The size going up, he did not exceed the footprint. But the exceptions that he's looking for, I thought were greatly excessive. Personally, I have a great concern about the use of the property. My concern is that this is going to be used as a rental family, a rental property, and by expanding, turning it into a two-family rental property.
Do you have
This-
anything to substantiate that concern, or is it?
There are
just based on
people
the
living
use
in,
of
there are people living in there now.
that? Generally, that's what happens.
Correct, but I believe they are renting. I don't believe they're family members. I did not go over there. So I'm here because my concern is I don't want another absentee landlord property in my neighborhood, especially if you're going to make it a two-family. It was listed as a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house when it sold. On a property that size, I think that's plenty for a single family. By blowing out the front and picking up that additional space, my concern or my thought process is this is going to be flipped into a rental and a two-family rental.
So you can't
That-
assume, the law doesn't permit us to assume illegal use. But your other point is well taken, and that is that the variances are substantial here. And as Mr. Wetzel loves to say, could lead to a very bad precedent, even if.
All right. So I just want to make sure that it was on the record. If it
Sure,
was
sure.
approved, that this is my concern about a rental. So if it went that way, I can come back and say, I addressed this, and then we'll
Sure.
have to address it
And
again.
just to put your concern to change a property into a legal two-family in the town of Islip is very difficult. So.
To go legal, right?
Yeah, legal two-family, exactly. So
So-
that'd be very difficult on that. I understand your concern, and we understand it, and I just want to let you know that it's
Okay.
quite difficult.
And also the fact that after the stop work order went in, work continued, which made me feel a little concerned about who owned the property and what we're going to be dealing with in the future.
Sure.
All right?
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions?
I have a question for the applicant.
Sure, come on back up.
Good evening. Do you live there?
No, I do not.
Who lives there?
My family live there. It's only a woman with 2 child. The house is not going to be converted into any rental property. I'll be the one who'll be living on that property.
Oh, wait, are you going to live there?
Yes, and the reason why I don't live in there over there yet is because my plan was to finish the house before I move in, and as this stopped me, I haven't done anything on the interior of the property. The only thing I asked the town was if I can finish the siding because, the house was getting damaged. And they tell me, yes, that I can finish the siding, but not the front where I have the construction. So that construction is still on no siding.
So all you did after the stop work order is basically put the side. finish the
Just,
siding.
that's it, nothing else.
All right. Any further questions by the board? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to reserve decision.
All in favor? So we have 62 days by state law to render a decision. We are going to do our best to get it done as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much.
All right?
Next application is number 919-225150 Veterans LLC. Permission to erect industrial building on a lot having a width of 253.8 feet instead of required 300 feet, front yard of 30.8 instead of required 50 feet, IC3 district. South side of Veterans Memorial Highway, 376.33 feet south of Broadway Avenue, Holbrook, New York. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please,
Katie Rivas, 4155 Veterans Highway, Suite 13, Ronkonkoma, New York.
and your relationship to the applicant.
I am the managing director of 5150 Veterans LLC.
Thank
Yep, RIVAS.
So what's in there?
It's a vacant wooded lot. Good evening, members of the board. The location is 5150 Veterans Highway in Holbrook. It's a vacant wooded lot. It's 5.07 acres. We're proposing to build 70,000 square foot multi-tenant industrial
I'm trying
building.
to place it. What is?
So,
Joins it on either side.
It's the last vacant lot on Sunrise Highway on Veterans Highway before you hit Sunrise Highway, directly across the street from the Amazon facility,
Okay, it's next to the Sunoco station.
directly next to the Sunoco station.
Thank
Yes.
you. Now, who owned it before you guys?
Sunoco.
Who?
Sunoco,
This lot?
yes. So we subdivided it. We bought the lot from Sunoco.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we are here tonight to apply for two variance requests. One is a minimum lot width variance. That's 253.85 feet instead of the minimum required of 300 feet. That is a pre-existing condition of the site. The second setback is a front yard setback. We are proposing 30.8 instead of the minimum requirement of 50 feet. That it refers to a front yard setback. You'll see on the site plan, there's also a front yard on Veterans Highway, which we completely comply with, which is 100 feet. This is the secondary front yard on Broadway Avenue. The 30.8 is a little bit misleading because that takes into consideration the 10-foot dedication, proposed dedication to the town of Islip for a future sidewalk. So that has not been granted yet. So if we take that out, it's more realistically 40.8, of the required 50.
What do the buildings look like in that area with regard to setback? Are they similarly set back? Are they?
Well,
It's the ICD that's
So-
very generous on the set.
Yeah, this is a split zone piece. It was industrial one and ICD. ICT takes precedence. We're 100 feet, we completely comply on Veterans Highway, which is the 100 feet setback. Broadway is actually not ICD, that's the L1.
So you wrap around this.
We wrap around Sunoco, in the back of Sunoco. Yeah, because they wanted the corner with a light. So given the fact that we have the 100-foot setback in the front of the site and the rear of the site required extra space to allow for truck turning zones, tractor trailer access staging, we shifted part of the building towards Broadway, hence the variance we're going for tonight. It should also be noted that the portion of the building facing Broadway is an office suite, so we put office suites at the end of the industrial property just to shield better the trucking delivery zone in the back. In general, we believe the pre-existing condition of the minimum lot width and the requested minor front yard setback variance are reasonable and necessary for this feasible speculative industrial project. I think it also should be noted that we partnered with the town of Islip IDA on this project, where the resolution was unanimously passed in August of 21 for an 11-year pilot program. We anticipate closing in early 2023. We anticipate about 80 full-time jobs will be created upon full occupancy of this project.
Deirdre from planning, any objection from the planning department?
So if they omitted the last unit, what you're saying is that they would comply with the setback, right?
Can you push it back?
You
We-
omit that last unit?
We can't shift the building towards vets because we want to comply with that
You don't have to
100-foot
shift the
setback.
building, you just lop off the last unit that faces Broadway.
Yeah, we're only at a 32% floor area ratio. So if we do that, that brings us into the 20s. And I just don't think it's financially feasible.
But
And then if we add it on to the back of the building facing Suffolk County Water, that's my
So-
trucking and
so-
delivery
so
area.
Let's go, there's
Yeah.
a short distance between on Broadway Avenue, between Veterans Memorial Highway and Sunrise, right? So let's walk through that. You have the Sunoco station on your side, right?
Yes,
Then as you go south on Broadway, there's your portion of the vacant lot, right?
yes,
After that is the Water Authority, right?
yes,
Across the street from that is a little strip center, right?
yes.
And do they comply with the setback?
The little strip center is down a little bit further. There's really apartment buildings across the
There's
street.
apartments, you're right.
Yeah.
And then the strip center with the, actually, no.
No,
there's a storage facility, then the strip center, right?
Yeah, the storage is right on Broadway.
And there's your argument.
see,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What she's trying to say is that it's already, the precedent has already
Yeah,
been set.
the storage unit is what you're trying to say. does not comply with the setback.
Yeah, the storage unit does not comply with the setback.
They have an office, right?
But it's a different zone.
But it's right, it's the
Yeah, but
area.
This
though.
is split zone, so, you suffer under a split zone because the higher zone categories apply throughout.
Right, if we were to
But if
apply
you-
the,
My
Let me make your argument. But if you were to look at nature and character, it is entirely consistent with the setback set in the storage facility.
Mr. Messina, my concern is that when an applicant tells us we can't do it, it's not financially
But I
feasible.
agree, Mr. West, I share.
Yeah, then do something that is
I don't
financial.
know the numbers, and there's
Right.
been no dollars and cents proof.
Right.
Developers always say that.
I know
We-
that we hear that everything, I can't do it, I can't build it, and there would be no buildings built in the town of Islip.
But having said that, this is a very small area of interest, if you will. And this is the last piece that could be developed. So it's not like you could have an adverse impact by setting a precedent for other parcels, because there are no more parcels on Broadway between Sunrise and Veterans Memorial Highway.
How large is the structure going to be? I mean,
70,000 square feet. It's over 5 acres.
The parcels.
Parcels over 5
Yeah,
acres.
the parcel's 5.07 acres. We're only going for 32% floor area ratio, given the fact that we're leaving all this room in the back for a safe trucking delivery zone for tractor trailers to come in, or box trucks, overhead, with the overhead garage doors, the loading dock areas. So that's why we had to push off a little bit onto Broadway and then push off towards the other side of the site, which is undeveloped and Suffolk County Water owns, and we comply with that. The reason why we don't comply on Broadway is because they're considering it a front yard setback because the split zoning, the ICD takes precedence over the L1. That piece of the property really should be L1 zoned, but it is L1 zoned. But because after the overlay took place, ICD governs the whole site.
We call it I-1.
Oh, L1, I1, okay.
I know you already.
I'm fine with it. How about you guys? Dan? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you
Happy
very much.
holidays.
Thank you.
Next application is number 920-22, 2300 Sunrise Realty LLC. Permission to erect a gasoline service station and convenience market on a lot having an area of 34,772 square feet instead of the required 40,000 square feet, leaving a front yard of 34.8 feet instead of the required 50 feet. To erect a fuel canopy, leaving a front yard of 24.2 feet instead of required 50 feet. 6-foot fence on front property line, not having required setback of 15 feet. To install 2 ground signs having sign areas of 60 feet with gas price sections of 30 square feet each instead of permitting 1 ground sign and 48 square feet with gas price section that exceeds 6 square feet each. To install 3 facial signs where only 1 is permitted. To install 2 gas canopy signs having sign areas of 15.3 square feet instead of permitted 12 square feet each. 1 facing a residential zoning in violation of section 68-381.1B, Business Street District, southwest corner of Sunrise Highway, number 2300, Pomac Road, Islip, New York. Mr. Bernardino, had I known you were further on, I would have called you earlier with your other applications. I apologize.
No worries.
Address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. For the applicant, Steve Bertolino, 130 West Main Street, East Islip, New York. Just wanted to make sure everybody was ready. So this is not a pool application. It's a little bit different. This particular parcel has been sitting on corner of Sunrise Highway, unused for the last 8 or 9 years. My client bought it in 2014. It was being used as an auto body repair shop service station, and it just has been untenantable. It's not something that, can reap any kind of economic benefit, as my client has had it with 3 different commercial brokers. Nobody seems to want to take it over. We were able to sign a lease with Bola to install a gas station. There was an application made to the town board for a change of zone, which was granted back in February of 2021. Went from business and residential to a business 3. And we've now got, this is our last step. We've got DPW approval for the curb cuts on Sunrise Highway. The curb cut sitting on Comac Road is going to remain the same. I put up some poster boards that you can see here tonight. If you can't see them or you want to know about each one, let me know. I want to point out to the board that many of the relaxations that we're asking for tonight go onto an unopened road. So just to the south of the parcel is Bonaparte Avenue. It's unimproved, unopened, and when we take our setbacks, it's considered a second front in some cases. The other relaxations that we're asking for are on Sunrise Highway, which is the arterial highway. With respect to the fence, the 6-foot fence, that fence is actually running along Bonaparte Avenue, and it's required by DEC. So part of this lot to the west, borders on DEC property or controlled wetlands area, which we had the DEC approval for as well. And they required a fence just to keep any debris and anything that may blow from any commercial. They required the fence, and I know going back and forth with
The 6-foot fence they required?
well, the planning requires the 6-foot fence on the commercial to the residential zone. So my understanding was DEC required the fence, and planning department and town code requires the 6-foot fence on the commercial property.
And is this the exact one that was approved by the town board?
Yes. But I
This-
want to
This
point.
fence, I'm sorry, this fence is on that unopened bone.
That's correct. So when you see in the call of the meeting that we're asking for the 6-foot fence less than the 15-foot setback, that's where it is. It's still going to be approximately 50 feet to Grant Avenue, and if not more in some other spaces. With respect to the canopy signs, so the canopy signs, one of them is going to face west. It's on the It is on the west side facing the arterial highway. So if you're coming down Sunrise Highway on the service road heading eastbound, you will see that canopy sign up in the up left corner. That is the one that's facing, quote, the residential zone. So we do not have a canopy sign on the south side of the canopy, and the other one is going to be on the north side for the Sunrise Highway side. And that's also going to face the arterial highway, should be visible from traffic coming south on Comac Road. So we don't have a canopy sign on the east, and we don't have a canopy sign on the south, which is what both sides are really facing the residential. The call of the meeting, would imply that we're putting up the canopy sign on the residential side, but we're not. With respect to the 2 monument signs, as you can see, this particular, and some of you may be familiar with it, that come down that way from Sunrise into Islip. It's a little tricky intersection. It's angled quite a bit, and then you have Grant Avenue, which comes in from the south and hooks around. So 1 monument sign may not be enough for visibility, especially on the arterial highway. We've proposed putting the 1 monument sign up on the arterial highway on the north, more to the west, which would definitely not be visible to anybody coming from Grant Avenue or Comac Road. And the other monument sign we're proposing to put over onto Comac Road. We did not want to place the monument sign right at the intersection. It could be more of a distraction than anything if we were to put it right on the corner. I'd like to point out to the board that part of this application going back and forth with the planning department includes some road improvements to this particular intersection.
Mr. Bertolino, just talking about the ground signs, I don't think we have 2 ground signs for any gas stations, and that I can remember over the last 15 years. And I don't know if we want to start that now. Additionally, it seems that it's important to have it on the Sunrise Highway, the service road, but I think people on Grant or Comac Road can figure out it's a gas station. I mean, I don't think that's going to be, I can understand, well, you can put the ground sign wherever you want. I imagine it'll be on Sunrise, but I don't think we have 2 ground signs, especially monument signs. I've never remembered granting 2.
Well, I know there's one up on, back into location and precedent, up on 111 and, no, it's Corneal, actually.
I
111
think they
doesn't go
can-
that far south, Mr.
I
Messina.
think they can get by on one ground monument. I mean, that's not a deal breaker, I'm sure.
Well, it's not a deal breaker, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you we can't build it if we don't get the one ground
Yeah, I
sign. So
got you.
I won't make that representation. But obviously, we're looking at more than just one ground sign location. It's more than just, visibility. It goes to, pricing. People want to see the pricing, and that goes to the sizes of the ground signs and the monuments. On that
You're going to
note,
have two canopy signs.
canopy signs don't have the pricing.
Right.
Right. So the canopy sign, Mr. Wexler tells us what brand we have.
Yes, I get it.
And the monument signs lets people know, and obviously when you're coming down Sunrise Highway, some people are going a little fast. Admittedly, there is no competition right next door, so it's not like we're competing as some of the gas stations do with their neighbor across the way on the pricing, but we are looking for the two monument signs to advertise the pricing to both directions of traffic, which would be north-south and obviously going eastbound. That being said, we have these signs on the front of the building. So the Bowler Market obviously is a brand that you've seen many times, and we all see it throughout the town of Islip. And, Bowler themselves have what we'll call, the family crest, if you will. It's actually a stone placard. It'd be similar to building a structure, 100 years ago where they put that little cornerstone in, or they put the keystone in and had a name on it, and it would say, the Smith Building built in 1923. That's the second sign out of the three that we're asking for on the building. If you just want to highlight that for me. You should see it on your plans. It's just to the right of the doorway. And I want to point out that it's embedded into the actual facade of the building. The other sign that we're asking for on the front of the building is a Tim Hortons. So we've had some conversations with zoning and the signs and for planning. And if this were a building with multiple tenants, we would be entitled to have an additional sign. But because there are no, quote, tenants in the building and it's owner occupied, if you will, we're not allowed to put that second Tim Hortons sign. Tim Hortons is a brand.
There's one right down the road on the opposite side of Sunrise Highway.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's precedent.
Well, we're here tonight for the three signs, and I want to make the board understand why we have the three
What I'm
signs.
saying is the important thing is that
Yeah.
that's been done before.
No. But as part of the application, we have three signs, and that's what we're asking for. Other than that, if, the board has questions, I'm here, and we can go back and forth after the public if they have any questions on what's there.
Deirdre from planning, any objection to the application? Mr. Bertolino, are you willing to move forward with one ground sign?
Yeah, as you know, I'm not here to bargain, of course, we're not supposed to do that, but if this board saw fit to grant the application minus the second ground sign, I couldn't say no. No.
Wise move.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we deny so much of the application seeking a second ground sign and grant the remainder.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good
great night.
evening.
Have a great holiday.
Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas to all.
41-22 Ridgeline Enhancements LLC. Commission to erect industrial building leaving a front yard of 48 feet and side yard of 20 feet that are by 64.25 feet each. Industrial 1 district, south side of Rajon Road, 642.42 feet west of Sylvan Avenue, Bayport, New York. Welcome. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Anthony Guardino, law firm of Farrell Fritz, Hop Hog, New York, for the applicant. Good evening.
How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. How about you? Just get sit here. Can I hand it? There you go. Thank you.
Do we have the memo? Thank you. Mary, is there a memo in the file on this features which you?
Yeah, we have memos from Sean. My mom has this.
Oh, okay. Oh, good, yeah. So
So, Mr. Guardino, tell me, what's on the side with the 28 feet instead of the required 64.25 feet?
That's, you have a recharge basin and you, and a sewage pump station. So, so I represent AG MRA 00 Rajon Road, and I have with me Mr. Stolzenberg. We can talk a little bit about the site plan. I have Gianna Turco, is an architect with Frank Ralph Architects, and Mr. Joe Farkas is here to my left, and he's a principal of AG MRA 00 Rajon. The site is a little over 3 acres, 3¼ acres in size, is located on the south side of Rajon Road, west, about 650 feet west of Sylvan Avenue in Bayport. The lot was created with the Bayport, the map of Bayport Gardens. That was approved by the town in 2021. The site is currently vacant. It has been and still is zoned Industrial 1 and is part of the Bayport Industrial Area. It is surrounded on 4 sides by industrial uses or industrially zoned land. You have the Winter Bakery property, which is across the street on the north side of Rajon Road. You have a company called A. Perry Farms, which is a wholesale importer and distributor of cut flowers located to the east. You have Ferguson Plumbing Supply to the south, which I think is an Industrial 2 site. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you have the sewage pump station and the recharge basin that serve the industrial park and the Bayport Meadows condo community, which are located to the west of the site. My client is seeking to develop the property with a 1-story, 49,696 square foot industrial warehouse building. It will have 10 loading docks and parking for approximately 71 vehicles. The proposal was fully compliant with the applicable zoning regulations, and therefore was submitted directly to the engineering division back in April of 2022. But in the midst of that review, unbeknownst to us, there was a change in the zone.
Mr. Guardino, we may be able to shortcut a lot of
Okay.
this.
Yeah, we
Sure.
have no issue with this, unless
Okay.
there's something that you want to bring our attention.
No, just, okay, I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, yeah, so there's a situation where we had a compliant plan. We went through the process, or we were halfway through the process, and then we found out that, hey, the law changed and the setbacks no longer comply. You need, because of the height of the building, which happens to comply with the height, but over 35 feet, you need an extra foot. Planning had suggested strongly that we actually move the building closer to the recharge basin, because it is a recharge basin, and that way it allowed the driveway to be on the east
There'd be
side.
no
So
adverse impact.
there'd be
on
no
that
adverse
side. It
impact.
makes
So
perfect
that's,
sense.
this one is, they're both, I think, relatively straightforward. I have an application right after this,
Yeah,
but this
next
one
one
is a
you're
little
gonna have
simpler.
difficulty with, but this one's okay.
Yeah, this one is pretty straightforward. Okay,
Does any, and planning is supportive of the variance request via memo.
great, thank you. Okay.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan will take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application
All right, our
granted.
next application, 922-22, Will John Holton, WIL-JA Holding Corp., Richmond Enhancements LLC. Material highway setback 68.2 feet, setback part 76.2 feet, floor area ratio of 35.14% instead of permitted 35%. A 6-foot high fence on 3-lot property line instead of the required 15 feet. Industrial 1 district, north side of Rajon Road, number 33, 369.6 feet west of Sylvan Avenue, Bayport, New York. Welcome back, Mr. Lucchino.
Yes.
Can you just tell me anyway why you need, tell us about the fence.
Well, the fence, so the fence is a fence that is existing on the property. It's buried in the buffer that runs along the right-of-way of Sunrise Highway or Sunrise Highway Service Road. It was not something that was flagged during the process, but during the review by the zoning department to determine which variances were necessary, they picked up on the fence and said, hey, this fence is right on the property line. And in fact, acknowledge it actually goes over the property line, and planning said, hey, you're gonna have to at least, if you get the variance, you'll at least have to pull the fence back so that it is on your property and not in the right of way, which my client is willing to do. But it's a chain link fence. It's a 6-foot high chain link fence. You can't see it. It's buried in the
in the buffer. I don't believe, I don't want to speak for planning, but I don't think planning, when I spoke, they did not want us to disturb the fence. They really, they said, leave it, just leave it alone, but get it properly approved. And then other than that, the application is much the same with regard to the two setbacks. The variances that, they came up as part of the process in the site plan. And then the only other variance that's needed with this application is for coverage. We designed the building to meet the 35-foot FAR, 35% FAR. But when we went to planning, they asked us to articulate the walls. And the way the architect did that is to have some things protruding off the wall. And then planning said, those are overhangs.
4% over. I don't think that's.
0.4% over. So those are the four variances.
And planning by memo, again, is in favor of this. Supportive, I should say. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank
Have
you
a great
very
night.
much.
Happy
Nice to see
holidays.
you. Yes, happy holidays.
The next application was previously adjourned from November 29th, 2022. It is number 883-22, 15-19 Main Street LLC. Permission to erect accessory structure 16.5 feet by 28.4 feet, resulting in floor area ratio of 87.7% instead of permitted 60% to relax buffer requirement BB district. North side of Main Street, number 15, 60.91 feet west of Railroad Avenue, Sayville, New York. Mr. Curtis, I saw you here before.
He was right here for the longest time.
I know, he was here all night. He was a trooper. Hang on, we'll, some.
Do you know who he is?
Yeah, they're going to.
He just
someone
went,
else to
someone
go.
just went out to try to find him.
There he is.
There he is.
You're up.
Good evening, Mr. Curtis. How are you? So we all remember last week, and I'm assuming you and the neighbor have had discussions.
Yes, and the neighbor is present here this evening, and he was also asked by my site plan, and we were able to relocate the proposed rebuild on the building a little bit further away from the neighbor's fence line to the west, and also we set it at 10 feet from the neighbor's property line to the north, and we held it as close as we could to the curb without getting involved in blocking any vision around the corners, and trying to make it simple. And a copy of the plan has been provided to the neighbor who is here this evening, and hopefully this will meet with the requirements.
So you shifted, you're saying the building?
Yes, we shifted the building approximately, she said it was like 20-something inches from the fence line, and it's now 4 feet minimum and 5 feet on the southwest corner.
So let's hear from the neighbor, and if they're happy, you know what? You hit the score.
I'm sorry?
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application?
Good evening, Marjorie Peter, 18 Center Street, Sable. We did go over the plans. And as long as the building that was proposed is the same size as the original structure, I'm thrilled that it was pushed off. The neighbor's thrilled that it's not close to his fence line. Electric only, no plumbing, single story. The door is going to be on the east and the north side.
You just have to speak up to us. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, because we had the plans from the building from last week, we don't have the plans for the building. I don't know where the doors are, but I'm
No,
happy.
He has to comply with the exact building that was there on his CO, which he knows that.
But we don't have the plan for that. The plan last week was different, so that's the only question
So what you're
was.
saying is the modifications he's put on the record, you're in agreement with, you just want to know where the door is, right?
Sure.
He,
I'm just happy that the building is pushed, he's moved it 2 feet east.
Correct.
It complies for me. The neighbor's happy it's not closer to his fence line. I know that there was some concern about the cut curb and the doors and which way the traffic was going.
so
If
the
it's the
curb
same
cut,
building,
the
it's-
building department will deal with the curb cut with Mr. Curtis. That's not in front of us, the curb cut. I'm not sure.
But if they've reached an agreement, let them put it on the record.
Yeah, as long as, yes, the only thing we talked about was the distance was the issue, and he has the new blueprints, and he pushed it off the fence, and
Perfect. Thank
it's
you.
safer there.
All right.
All right. Sir, would you like to be heard?
When you can,
Sir, would you like to be heard also?
no, he just wanted to make sure that the 10-foot was the staying, the 10, I'm sorry.
It wasn't clear earlier what the plans actually were, so I guess.
We just need your name for the record.
I have to go up.
We just need your name.
The plans run clear.
Your name, you
Your
have to
name.
put your name on the record.
Name.
Robert Handwright, 12 Center Street.
Thank you, sir.
All right, earlier the plans were not clear. They seem to be clearer now.
Okay,
As long as we stick to the plans, I'm fine with it.
sure.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Gentlemen in the back, do you wish to be heard? You're the only one left.
Yeah, he's running.
I scared him away.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
He's
sir.
outta
I didn't
here.
know I was that frightening. Mr. Chairman, note that there's no one in the audience left to be.
All right, Mr. Curtis, anything more to
Well,
say?
he's somebody back there.
Yes, if I could add,
Shaking his head.
the plan that I handed in also shows you a driveway on the north side of the building, going to door access on the north side of the building. So we've removed the south side access that was there before.
You removed the south side access, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'll take a motion.
As amended.
As amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application
Mr.
granted as
Chairman,
amended.
We have 4 more pieces.
Have a good
of
holiday.
business. The next is the decision on the application number 492-22, Lauren and Robert Halverson Jr., according to the proposed written decision dated December 6, 2022. Motion of, I will make it myself, seconded by.
Second.
All in favor?
And the application is denied. Opposed? Okay, so it's 4-1. Second application number 535-22, Lisa O'Day, 1464 Pine Avenue, Brentwood. Again, on motion of Mr. Sullivan, seconded by myself. The application is denied.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. Opposed? Sorry, Mr. Nicola, I didn't mean to steal your second. I thought you were going the other way. I apologize.
I only like to be an irritant on one case.
Next application number 541-22, Nancy Farrell, 3 Oak Street, Central Avenue, New York. Again, motion of Mr. Nicolia, seconded by Mr. Sullivan.
All in
The
favor?
application